My name is Delbert Hosemann. I'm the conservative candidate for Secretary of State for Mississippi. I was raised in Warren County, Mississippi in Vicksburg, and went and attended college at Notre Dame, where I met my wife. And we came back to the University of Mississippi for attending the School of Law. Went into the Army in the interim and came back and finished law school. Once that was done, my wife and I went to New York University and I obtained a Master of Laws in Taxation. Len and I came back to Mississippi to start our life here and live our dream here. And when we did, we came in a car, and everything we owned was in that car. Unfortunately, the car was leased, so I had to turn it in back at the airport. So we started with just some dreams in a car full of clothes, and Mississippi has been good to us. We have had 3 children here. We now are blessed with 2 grandchildren. In addition to that, all are doing well. So Mississippi has been at the forefront of our lives, and it's time, I think, to give a little back. As I looked here, as I came through with my practice, I came back as a business lawyer to Mississippi. I'm with Phelps Dunbar, and we have offices in Gulfport and Tupelo and in Jackson. And I mainly represent small, closely held businesses in their everyday transactions and issues that go on with most of our businesses. And I have my own small business. I have a real estate business, and we've built a residential real estate housing, and I'm a member of the Mississippi Home Builders Association, which has endorsed my candidacy. And I've also built commercial realty, and I manage my own family farm, which is mainly pine trees, but some oak trees as well. And I spend as much time as I can there. And all of those experiences working with businesses across the state and managing my own small business have given me qualifications, I believe, for the Secretary of State's office. The Secretary of State's office in Mississippi really is the business office for the state. It manages all of its 16 section lands, and there are approximately 600,000 acres of those. It manages all the tidelands. There's 1,000 square miles of tidelands in Mississippi we're blessed with. And it manages all the public lands, about 800,000 acres of those. So in many ways, and in being in charge of the corporations and the partnerships and the securities and the nonprofits, it's the state's business office, the Secretary of State is. And I bring those qualifications to the office as the way I've done my own personal business. When I came to look at the Secretary of State's office, I noticed 2 or 3 different things that I think have become major issues in the campaign. The first is this voter identification issue. I'm for a constitutional voter ID program. My opponent is against it. I don't think there's any of you there that don't think there are issues with the integrity in the vote of Mississippi. Thomas Jefferson said that the cornerstone of our democracy is the vote. And I believe our foundation is cracked on that cornerstone because we don't have valid enforcement of our voting laws in Mississippi, and we don't have a constitutional voter ID program here. So I'm in favor of that. I want to restore the integrity. Most of you listening, I don't think there'll probably be very few, if any of you, don't think there were some issues with the voting process the last election we have. We can't have business as usual in Mississippi where our voting process is tainted. We must make a commitment to voter ID and a commitment to a comprehensive voter reform program that ensures the integrity of the vote. I'm going to start an election task force immediately after the election to gather the information necessary to furnish it to the legislature. We're under a federal court order to adopt constitutional voter ID by next August. So I'm going to furnish the information and rely on our clerks and our others in this election task force to come up with comprehensive voter reform for the state. I think it's absolutely critical that we pass that the first legislative session, and I plan to work with the legislature in doing that. The second thing I noted came from my other experiences. I am a small business person. I noted that our business code in Mississippi was last revised in 1987. So and earlier in my own career, I remember I didn't even have a computer when I started my real estate practice or my business law practice. Now everything in Mississippi in our businesses moves with the speed of computers. And I note from looking at Governor Barber's recent announcements that we're just not in competition with Louisiana anymore. or Alabama anymore. We're in competition with the world for businesses. And our business code needs to reflect the ability to compete on that level. I want to make it more user-friendly. I want to make the entire business code brought up to the speed that businesses do now. And that would include a business court for resolution of business disputes only between individual companies, so that they can do this within a 12-month period and get fast, consistent opinions when they have issues that are unresolved between businesses. So I have a way that we want to revise our business codes in Mississippi, mainly to ensure that we have jobs and that our small businesses like mine and yours can create more jobs for us to raise our families and practice our faith. I think it's critical that we do that. And so you'll see a comprehensive Business Reform Act coming from the Secretary of State's office, who's in charge of corporations and partnerships and securities and nonprofits. And then the third thing I noticed was 16th section land. We have a history of 16th section land in Mississippi, and in fact in 22 counties it's already been sold off many years ago. So we look at 16th section land, and when I looked at the process, I noted we didn't actually have an inventory of all our 16th section land. There's 640,000 acres supposedly of 16th section land, and in that 16th section land we receive $50 million a year in revenues. So the $50 million in year revenues, every bit of that goes back to the school systems, our public schools. None comes back to the legislature or the general fund. So it's so critical that we have an inventory of our assets in our 16th section land, these hundreds of thousands of acres, and that we have a business plan, just like we run our businesses, for how to operate those for the highest and best use, and that we get good value and fair value for those properties. Every bit of that goes into educating our children. It's a sacred trust that we have. And the Secretary of State manages that. So in the first 90 days, I'm going to do an inventory of all of our assets. Spoken with Mississippi State University to use satellite mapping, and we'll really get a good inventory of what we got, and then we'll determine a good business plan on how to operate it and generate the maximum dollars that we can for our school children. So those three areas I see as being issues that we're talking about in the Secretary of State's race. But I also see something else in Mississippi. I don't know, as I've gone, I guess, from Corinth to the coast. I've stood in your businesses, I've stood in your courthouses, I've come to your homes, my wife Lynn and I have, and knocked on your doors. You've been most generous to us, most receptive to hear what our agenda is, what our vision for Mississippi is, and where we want to go with Mississippi. And you've been so receptive, and I note that we've got everything in line here to have the most prosperous 4 years this state has ever had. And the reason for that is that when you look at our people and they're willing to work, and you look at the abilities that we have in the water and the climate, and you look at the visions of Mississippi after Katrina and how we rose up and faced adversity, everything is in line for us to have the most prosperous 4 years we've ever had. And I'm looking forward to having the Secretary of State and the part that we play in the election process and in the corporation process in managing our sacred trust lands. I'm so looking forward to being a part of that prosperous 4 years. I need your vote, and I ask for your support. Thank you very much.